records. Smell the cover, read all the verses. Tell me about your favorites on Vinyl and Vision.
Hello folks, thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. Here we are with episode 67. We are just banging through these this year. We're already up to 67. Today's very special guest is Alice Genese. Alice is a wonderful person. It's actually really an honor and pleasure for me to get to know her a little bit better and to speak with her today on the show about a number of things, including her, a little bit of her musical history, what she's currently working on, this band of stars. Now, Alice was great. I gotta say that we just hit it off immediately. I really enjoyed the conversation, and we had a great time, I think. And I think that that's evident, and I hope you enjoy it too. Of course, the record that we talked about this evening is David Bowie's The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, which, what a great record. I mean, it's evergreen, it's ever present in my life. I've known it for a long time, and so has Alice, and it was a great opportunity to get to know her through that record, and talking about it is one I've wanted to cover for a very long time. So, not to get off topic, of course, about Alice, I want to speak all about her, of course, and I want you to listen to the show and find out more about her. But there are a few things happening. First of all, April 23rd is coming right up. It's this weekend coming, a few days away. That is Record Store Day, folks. Now, Alice has her album coming out on that same day. It is not a official Record Store Day release, unfortunately. But Ben Vaughn, the last guest from our last episode, does have an album coming out on Record Store Day, exclusively, The World of Ben Vaughn. So I encourage you, reminding you folks, please go out there and go find it. I will be out there in the trenches finding it myself. Let's not forget this. April 24th, the next day, Alice will be performing in Asbury Park, New Jersey. We talk about this in the show as far as the details are concerned, but it's going to be an acoustic set. Basically an introduction to Of Stars. They'll probably be playing the 5 songs that they're releasing, as well as playing a couple of solo acoustic sets, Alice herself, and then her partner Pony, who is part of the band, will also be playing a set. So if you can do that, links will be provided. The next weekend, April 30th, I am going to be participating as a vendor, selling my records at the Burlesque and Roll show at the Dusk in Providence. Awesome all-day long show. Tons of bands, tons of burlesque dancers. It's going to be insane. The last one on Halloween was amazing, so we hope that this will be just as good, if not even better. So if you can make that, we'd really appreciate it. Also, here at Violent Vision, we ask that you please do all the things you do with the internet for this show. Please do the liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, rating, reviewing, and anything else that ends in ing that you can think of. We would appreciate it very much, and enjoy.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Alice. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Good. Thanks for coming and doing this.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to be here. It's slightly terrifying, but also pretty great.
Slightly terrifying? Why would you be so terrified?
I don't know. I'm always afraid of interviews.
Oh, okay. Well, I promise to be gentle. I mean,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The premise of this is to discuss a record that's important to you. And you chose David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars.
I did.
Yeah. See, so I'm just throwing that out there now only because it's possible that this could get a little deep.
Okay.
Yeah, just because of the content of the music. I mean, like, obviously you like this music, I love this. I've kind of grown up with this album as well, so I'm very familiar with it, and it's a kind of a heavy record,
It is. Yeah. It's pretty. To me, I feel like it's a really emotional record, and I feel like it's an incredible journey, and I know it's supposed to be about one thing, but it makes me wonder about all of the things that Bowie might have been going through in his life to be able to write that kind of music.
Right.
And I feel like it's stuff that I tap into as, I mean, not that I'm a genius in that way, but I understand the emotions that are, I feel I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and we'll get into it. I mean, I've done a bunch of research. I've done the best that I can to kind of like figure out more about the history and kind of where Bowie was at this time in his career and so forth, and you know, and I read into things too, and I kind of play with it a little bit. You'll see what I mean. You know, I'm happy to have you on, and I'm happy to discuss with you the latest project that you're working on, of Stars, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Upstart started as just a writing challenge, like a little writing project in my living room with a friend that I met through my brother. We've become very close over the years. Honestly, I just needed to, Psychic TV was slowing down because Genesis had a diagnosis of leukemia. And you know, so we weren't really writing as much, and I need to create music. It you know, it brings me, I want to say it brings me joy and happiness, but it helps me to stay stable as a human being.
Sure.
Something that I really need to do. And I feel like if I'm, because of the things that were happening in my life and had happened in the last, you know, 5 to 10 years, I tend to write sad music. And I was hoping that writing with a partner would help. And now I think we still write some sad music, but not always. At least we can be sad together.
Yeah. Well, I've heard the two songs that have been released so far. What is it? The self-titled Of Stars song, correct?
Yeah.
And then Dear Eyes?
Correct. Yeah.
Sure. And so you're releasing an EP, correct? It's only going to be 5 songs?
It is, yeah.
And that goes by the name of Tuesdays.
Yes, because we meet on Tuesdays to write, and it just felt like, you know, I sort of feel like this is an intimate glimpse into the world that we've been living in, especially, you know, over the last few years during the pandemic. Especially, you know, the fact that Pony and I could get together every Tuesday to write, or even just to chat, was really important. Because, you know, everybody had to socially distance and isolate themselves. And I don't mind being alone. I can be very introverted. But what I realized, it's so funny because I'm like, I love spending time by myself. After 2 weeks of spending time completely alone, I was like, yeah, I actually really like to go out once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, you know, 5 days off and 2 days on would work for me. Sorry, we were just rehearsing earlier, so I've been singing and my voice is a little shot. But
oh, okay. Yeah, you have a few things coming up. I mean, so the record itself is coming out on the 23rd, correct?
Yep, that is correct.
April 23rd. And then you have a show on the 24th, is it?
Yes.
Cool.
Just, you know, we're just doing that. We're doing an acoustic version. Basically it's, Tony and I, neither of us are guitar players. I feel like I'm a terrible guitar player. I'm a bass player. And I love playing bass. And,
right.
Tony plays piano and loves playing piano. And he's great at it. And we've been writing on guitars for some weird reason. So we're gonna play like we write in the living room on the 24th.
Oh,
so
cool.
we're just gonna play that way. Yeah, so it'll be a real intimate glimpse of, you know, what we do in our process.
Right.
We haven't gotten together to play or even write since we finished the recording. I mean, we get together every week, but now it's like doing more business than, you know, album packaging and doing photo shoots and doing some press and, you know, the stuff that you have to do to support the music. You know, which when I was in Psychic TV, there were other people doing a lot of that. And
oh, right. So you were saying how you have to make decisions for like packaging and stuff like that now. You know, for the record that's coming out, it's going to be available in a vinyl format, right?
It is, as everybody is well aware in this industry, vinyl is very, very backed up.
Yeah.
We did order our vinyl back in November after our masters were completed.
Oh.
We don't know yet when it's expected to come out. We were hoping sometime in September.
Yeah.
And we'll do a pre-sale, but
Right.
I don't even have any images to put out the packaging.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the packaging is fully done, obviously, but
Right.
we need to get all of that from the record plant so that
have you gotten test pressings yet?
haven't even gotten a test pressing yet.
Oof. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
It's way backed up.
Yeah.
It's horrible. I'm like, well, maybe it's going to be 2023, but whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I have other things to worry about that are more important than,
Right.
the vinyl will come out when it comes out.
Yeah, and I think that people will be understanding and be patient. Like, I know there's this one band I just ordered their record, and they have no idea when it's coming. Like, it's very possible that it will come in 2023. But
Yeah,
I've already ordered it. I give them my money, so it'll show up when it shows up, and that's fine.
That's great.
I get the digital download for the meantime, like off Bandcamp, so I can listen to the music. But yeah, as far as like the physical format, it's going to be, it'll be what it'll be. I think people will be understanding. It's fine.
Yeah, I hope so.
But so what about the packaging? Is there anything special about the way that it's going to be presented, or?
Well, we did this weird like fold up kind of thing, so it's a really but it's not quite a gatefold. It only goes like part of the way up on the other side. And we have a really good friend, photographer Sarah Stettmiller. So she works with the 4x6 format, like old fashioned cameras with film. So she took these very like I think striking images of us. We live close to the ocean, so we went near the ocean. It was sort of a cloudy day, so it's very moody.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's very artistically, if I might use that. I don't know, that's a weird word to use, but I mean, I think it's beautiful. It's all black and white, and the album itself will be translucent. The vinyl will be translucent red, so there will be some color, but not in the packaging itself. So.
Oh, that's cool. No, that's great. Yeah. I mean, that's always a nice feature to have when you're pressing vinyl, is to have it be something kind of colorful.
Yeah, we get to do a lyric sheet and all of that, because I love, I have my vinyl lyrics. I love being able to read people's lyrics, because how often do you hear a lyric and you're completely off base with it. I do it all the time.
Right. Well, and it's part of the process now. I mean, so I take it you're a vinyl music fan.
I mean, I always have been. I don't have very much vinyl anymore, and I sort of, there's a part of me that doesn't want to buy more, but Psychic TV released most of our music on vinyl. And I've never gotten rid of my turntable in all of the years that I've had it. Yeah, I like it. I love the way vinyl sounds. I love the warmth, and I don't mind the crackles and the pops, and I like it.
And it's also that process where you take out that sleeve or that insert, that whatever has the lyrics on it or whatever artwork, and you sit with it and you kind of digest all of it at once.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being a younger woman, a girl or a teenager, and just holding the packaging and flipping it over, and you're just sort of, you're eating it all up, right? You're digesting all of it. There's so much material, and the fact that you have like this 12 by 12 square of art, I think it's incredible. I mean, my albums look like crap. I did, obviously I'm not known how to take care of my had cats and animals that scratched on them, and a lot of them are really old, and I don't buy a lot of music anymore. And I've been listening to, I buy friends' music, obviously, and I buy things that I download, but we've become that world, right? Like, I like to be able to listen to music in my car, and I like to be able to listen to music when I'm a jeweler also, so I work in a studio, and you can't carry a turntable, so it's just sort of become easier to listen to music that way.
Right. Yeah. There's certain little practical applications, and that's totally fine. But when you're at home and you want to kind of take some time, it's nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And not many people do that anyway, because who has the time?
I mean, I every now and again I just make that time because I want it. I just
Yeah.
want to do it.
You should. You should.
Like I'll spend, I don't know, like I'm gonna carve out 3 hours today. I'm gonna listen to these 3 or 4 records, and sometimes I think, oh, I'm gonna read a book when I'm doing it, but I can't focus on both.
Oh yeah.
So it's sort of like one has to become background, so it doesn't always work. But I can sketch stuff out when I do that, and I like that.
Yeah.
So,
For sure. So speaking of being a kid and growing up with music, I mean, where did you grow up in New York?
I grew up in Hoboken, which is I
Oh,
don't know if you,
Jersey.
yeah, Jersey,
Yeah.
Jersey girl. I grew up across the river from Manhattan, like literally between the Holland and the Lincoln Tunnels. So I was in New York City a lot.
Yeah.
When we would, I'm not going to say this. My mom might listen. I'm very old now, but she would still probably get mad. But like if we were to skip school, we would be in the West Village. Like
Oh,
that was our skipping school, right? Like we had the
sure.
PATH train right in our backyard, and we had a bus to Manhattan on the street that I grew up in. So it was really easy to just go
Right.
and hang out in the city all the time. And I feel really lucky about that. Um, I I was, born in the early '60s, so I got to see a lot of like really cool music happening in Manhattan
Oh yeah. I bet.
uh, at that time, like which inspired me to play. Actually, like
Yeah.
everything's just sort of yeah. Um, I would see this band called the Bush Tetras. There was a band called ESG that I thought were incredible.
Oh yeah.
And seeing them play, I felt like, yeah, I want to play bass too. Like I just sort of, I knew I was something. I wasn't, I was still sort of forming
Mm.
as a human. I think even in my 20s, no, late teens, early 20s. I guess I probably started playing bass around 20. Um,
Oh okay.
but I played, other instruments. It wasn't like I was new to music completely.
Oh okay. Well, what did you start off with?
Probably the first instrument I learned to play terribly was piano.
Okay.
And then I wasn't really into like being a classically, like I just wanted to play stuff and write stuff and not. I always wrote songs in my head. So,
Mm.
uh, and then my mom started taking guitar classes at like a night school program around where her sister used to live in the suburbs of New Jersey. So I would take the ride with her, and I would sit in the back of this class, and I would just watch what everyone was doing. And I would go home and I would do it myself.
Mm.
Um, and that's how I
Okay.
learned to play guitar. And but I still, I was never a good guitar player either. I can write on guitar, um, but the bass is really where I found my voice.
Mm.
Um, that
Okay.
really, maybe because I had taken a lot of dance and like seriously studied dance, like where you go and you dance and take classes for 3 or 4 hours, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think because it was so rhythmic and I already understood like the rhythm in my body, it
Sure.
was what I connected with most. And it just made sense for me.
Oh okay. Cool. Yeah, that does make sense actually. I'm a bass player too, so
Oh, yeah.
you're in good company. I can
Awesome.
understand your love for it. I mean, I don't. I guess I couldn't probably describe why I like the bass and why I've. I mean, I played it because my brother basically taught me how to play it.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to start a band. He was just like, well, you need to be the bass player because I play guitar and he's going to play drums and he's going to sing, so you're going to play bass.
Oh, right
So
on. That's great.
yeah, so it just kind of stuck and I love it. You know.
Yeah, I love it too. I mean, I really love it. It's my happy
Yeah.
place.
I bet. And so,
Yeah.
like, when you were a kid growing up, I mean, prior to skipping school and escaping off into the city, what were you listening to in the house? What was that like, music in the house?
I was listening to the music that my parents were listening to. So, there was like, God, my mom was liking Joan Baez, and my dad was listening to like Bob Dylan, and there was Jim Croce, and then but also like my dad worked at a camp for like Hoboken kids as like a camp director, and we would have all these dance parties. So like I grew up listening to a lot of Motown music there, and we would have these like camp dances, and yeah, I feel like that was really my early the music I listened to most of my early years. And then as I got into high school, I started obviously listening to more rock kind of stuff, and
sure.
Zeppelin and Hendrix and all of that was sort of around. And then there was a club in Hoboken called Maxwell's, and I lived about a block and a half away, and Maxwell's got every touring band out there.
Yeah.
So like Soundgarden and Nirvana and like Replacements and Sonic Youth, obviously, like we all lived in the neighborhood also, but like I saw a lot of bands, Mudhoney, Screaming Trees. I saw like I can't even tell you.
Sure,
I saw
plenty.
X at Maxwell's. I saw The Fall. I mean, just like and that was really what made it easier for me, because I felt like at that place in my life, I was like, oh, they can all do it, and I can do it, and it just sort of became more real for me. When you see that you can, when you can be in a room that size, right? It's not like you're going to see like
some stadium
a huge
gig.
band like my friends would all go. I wasn't allowed to go to the Garden when I was young, but my friends would all go see like Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin or whoever. Like I wasn't, my parents weren't allowing me to go. It was a 15-minute train ride. I could have snuck out, but I wasn't going to get home in time, and I would have been in trouble. So I just wasn't going to deal with that.
Well, you get a good learning experience from Maxwell's anyway. I mean that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is that like we have this intimate setting, right? So the room holds maybe 200 people, and these shows were amazing.
Right, and they're more intense, and they're more kind of like being so intimate. So like I mean, I've spoken with a bunch of people now, especially older people that have been around when like a lot of that really great influential stuff in the 70s and 80s was coming around. Some of the punk scene obviously is forming, and that stuff was I can only imagine was like monumental, like to a young person watching it, participating.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, I remember REM. I think it was one of the first times they were at Maxwell's, and I was standing on the stoop at my mom's house, and they're like, "Hey, do you know how to get to Maxwell's?" And I just laughed, because they were literally a block away, and they were heading in the right direction. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it's a block away. And then I went out that night and I saw them, and then they were sort of teasing me all night about it. Like, I guess, one of them must have remembered. And, yeah, it was just sort of a funny thing. But, yeah.
That's crazy. So, so tell me about, speaking of like the big 70s rock explosion, tell me about, your introduction to Bowie.
Wow. I think it was probably, I don't know if at first I saw him on TV when I was young, and I cannot remember exactly what it was that drew me to him. It might have been visual, and it definitely was, an oral thing, like absolute audio. Loved, so much of what he's done. I haven't followed everything, throughout the career, but yeah, the earlier Bowie, I was a super fan.
Yeah. So you don't remember what the first thing was that you heard, maybe?
I really don't. It's kind of funny. Like I can't remember. I don't know what it was.
Okay. Well, how about this record? Like, what was your experience with this record?
I think this record, I think I attached myself to this record later on. I think,
Okay.
Obviously Suffragette City is an amazing song. So, earlier on I would have attached myself to that. But a song like 5 Years, I think I had to grow up a little bit more to understand it. And now it's one of my favorite Bowie songs. Like I honestly, it almost every time it makes me want to cry. Like, it does something to me.
I imagine as you got older and like you kind of like started to become more of a sophisticated adult, I can imagine how that song has kind of transformed in your mind and kind of like become more expansive, because it is a pretty big song. I mean, I guess we'll go ahead and get into it now. But I mean, song. No, it's okay. It's okay. That song specifically is, from what I found out in the research, is essentially, if you want to put the album into the context of being a thematic record, because supposedly that's kind of what it is, which wasn't really the case. Bowie did not kind of create all of these songs with a theme in mind. He just kind of put them all together and was just like, after creating this character of Ziggy that he could perform through, he kind of like figured out the sequence of these songs and was just like, oh, this can kind of be a theme record if we just kind of put these in this order. And so 5 Years is essentially I don't know who it is that's speaking, because it's not Ziggy, but it's essentially someone that they have announced that the Earth is going to end in 5 years.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty heavy concept for anybody to kind of try to tackle,
Yeah. And then how do you live those 5 years? Like, what?
Well, exactly.
And the fact that he's screaming at the end, like, that's the part where I just felt like I start to melt. Like, it's... Oh, yeah. Like,
it's very
But
powerful.
when I hear that, like, you have to live that, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's not fake. That's not like I'm performing this for a song. That's like I actually like, it does remind me of John Lennon's mother, and I know he was doing primal scream therapy at that point when he was when he was recording that piece of music. And when I listen to it, it is reminiscent in that way, where he is just screaming. And I do feel like you have to get to a certain place in your life where you would I'm too afraid. I would be too afraid to go there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it would take a lot for me to be able to like
scream like that.
Yeah, to go that deep.
Well, I can relate, because as you can maybe tell, I'm a soft-spoken person. I don't like to raise my voice no matter what. So, like, even being at a show, I was at a show on Monday night, and like everyone else is like doing the hooting and hollering thing, after every song. I'm just like, I just clap. It's very good. I love it.
I get it.
I just don't like to. I don't like that. I just don't like to be loud, But it's super powerful. I mean, the way that Bowie does it, and like much like John Lennon, it's incredibly powerful and moving to hear. Have it being executed like that, and I mean, sometimes I wish I could do that as far as performing is concerned. But I don't. I'm a little meek too. So.
Yeah. My bass yells really loud.
There you go. Yeah, you can do it with other things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, considering we're kind of like already talking about the record, maybe we'll just go ahead and get into the record now, and then we'll go back to speaking about Of Stars and your new record that's coming out.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off.
That's quite all right. This is
we were talking about it, so
very free here. We can do whatever we want.
All right on.
So 5 years. We just talked about that one, and actually, the question that I had for you, you kind of actually already brought up, is just like, if you were, told that the Earth was going to end in 5 years, what would you do with those 5 years? What do you think you would end up doing with yourself?
I'd write more music, and then I guess I would go to places that I've never been to, that I'd want to go to again. Like, never been to Machu Picchu, I'd probably go there.
Oh, that's cool.
Probably go to Egypt and see the pyramids.
Maybe you find some answers in those places that you go to.
Yeah, perhaps so. I mean, I'm also, I'm not really afraid of, I can say this because I'm not faced with any sort of terminal illness.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I don't feel afraid
Yeah.
of it. I've pretty much done all of the things I've wanted to do in my life. I mean, I want to do more.
Sure.
Not saying anything,
Yeah.
but I'm living a life that I want to live. So if I had 5 more years, those are the things I would do. I'd probably travel more, and I would see all my friends that I live in other countries, hang out with them for a while.
Right. Yeah. That sounds great. So I mean, is it just me, or does it seem like that's kind of a reality these days? It seems like that, like it could end in 5 years from now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't seem that outlandish. Like I was obviously with the current status of the world and horrible wars happening, and I'm going to use the word genocide because that's what I feel like I'm looking at in the Ukraine. But in Ukraine, and I visited both of those countries, and it sort of breaks my heart to watch this and to know that I'm pretty much helpless to stop anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
I mean, there's a lot of situations that are like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to think about. It's hard to think about those things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm bringing up one situation because it ended in nuclear war. For all we know. I mean, not to get so dark, but like.
I told you we're going to go there. This
Well,
record brings it out.
we went right there. But yeah, I just I don't need to hang out after that. Like, I don't need to go into a shelter. I'm just gonna sit on the porch and have a glass of wine with some friends and
watch it all come down, man.
Yeah, maybe it'll be beautiful.
Actually, that's the one thing that's the thing. I think maybe the one thing that would bring me some comfort was that at least I know we would all go together.
Yeah.
Because like the fear of death thing is kind of like mortifying only because I don't know when it's going to happen and I don't know who is going to be going first. Like if I think about my wife, I'm like, one of us is going to go first, and it could possibly suck for me if you go, but if I go and then it sucks for you, and then I feel bad that you have to live without me, unless of course that makes her happy. I don't know, but family and stuff like that. I think about my brothers all the time. I'm like, oh man, like, do I have to lose any of them? This sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think I know that death is harder for the living because I've lost enough. I've lost a child, so that's enough to know that it's hard for the living to deal with stuff like that.
Right, grief. Grief is
complicated
hard.
Grief is it's pretty intense. And at my age, I've lost several friends and bandmates. So, and bandmates to me, like my band, they're people I feel like I've been married to.
Oh yeah, of course.
You travel and you play music and you intimately connect. Right.
Yeah.
I feel like there's an invisible thread that connects me to the people that I'm making music with.
I think that's completely true. Yeah.
Emotionally, or that, I don't even know what the word would be for that, but some weird psychic place that you tap into, that you all connect into somehow to make music like that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, it really is. I mean, it certainly is a relationship, and it can definitely be profound for people. So, speaking of profound relationships, we should move on to the next song, Soul Love.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're going to go down the list, okay?
Well, I mean, immediately the first part of that is, a woman losing her brave son. Like, I can barely listen to that song anymore. Like, it's just, it has such a real, like, it's such a real meaning for me now. And like, musically, it's sort of a little bouncy, right?
It is,
like,
yeah.
But when you read the lyrics, like, she kneels before the grave of brave son who gave his life, like,
right.
Like,
and I forget the words exactly, but he gave his life for the slogan.
Yeah, and then all I have is my love of love, and love is not loving.
Right.
That's like, what?
Yeah, I mean this. Okay, first of all, I should mention this. So in the research that I've found about Bowie, I've been a lifelong fan. I've loved him in this record for a very very long time. But I've never really read into his history. So did you know that he was fairly unsuccessful up to the point of this record?
I did.
Yeah. So he had already what three
Five,
records
I
out.
think. I think this is the fifth studio
To this
album.
one coming out. Yeah. And this is the one that finally broke him.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and all of those songs, like those records, they have such great music on them. And to think that he wasn't successful, like he was really bootstrapped up to the
Yeah.
point of this record, which was mind blowing to me when I was reading it. I was just like, really? Like I could have sworn he was like already a famous rock star by the time he made this one.
Yeah, I don't think I knew all of that until I did do a deep dive at one point. So
Yeah.
I did learn some more of that, and I think it was it Starman that like was the first big hit that he had.
Yes, I think
It
that was the
was
one that
okay.
kind of like really turned people's heads because they ended up performing that song for On Top of the Pops in
Oh,
England. So that
right,
was
I did
really,
read that somewhere.
yeah, that was really the turning point because that was the introduction to the world, to really the world stage. But so Soul Love, before we get to Starman, you're right. This song is kind of more mellow. If you're trying to keep to the theme of the record of like this alien invader coming in and kind of like uh, being the rock and roll messiah thing, um, it kind of comes in as a mellow washing over of the trauma of realization that death is imminent. And so what I read is that there's actually like three kinds of loves that are described in this song. So like the first verse is like what you said. It was like this grieving mother. So that's like this paternal love. The second verse is like young teens in love. So it's a romantic kind of fun love. And then the third being more spiritual. You know. So of these three loves, I mean, which one brings you the most comfort?
Well, spiritual love, I would have to say straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Wh-
feel like I think as I'm in my 60s at this point, so I feel like I've had that young love, and
mhm.
um, yeah, I think spiritual is sort of where I'm at right now. Like that, the I think it's like that place that you can't see but exists. That and I think
Mhm.
that also encompasses like a self love sort of thing, which is a spiritual love. In a
Sure.
weird way, it sounds very yogi, and I'm not.
To take care
But
of yourself and
yeah, yeah,
take care of your mind in a
yeah.
spiritual way, and a belief in something that is bigger than yourself, yeah, I think that makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um, I I've had a lot of different kinds of love. It's been wonderful.
yeah.
But yeah, I do feel like that's where I would connect to right now.
Okay, sounds good. So next song is Moon Age Daydream. Oh my god, you
Yeah.
know that's right. I forgot about that. It's just such that hard come in, that just that single hit.
Oh, it's just a slap in the head,
Yeah, it
right?
really
Like,
is.
like, I love it. Yeah, it's incredible. Um, and the chorus of that song, I think, is so incredibly catchy
Oh yeah.
as well. Like, all of it is. I mean, I think it's like, sorry, I think it's like, perfect in a lot of ways. Like just there's catchy like riffs in that song. Like
Hmm.
at the beginning, really grabs me like straight away though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this is fair to say this is Bowie's most rock record.
It is, yeah. I
You
agree
know,
with you.
I mean, he really dug into the whole, underground New York rock scene, like the punk to a degree. I mean, it wasn't really punk in the '70s, but it was kind of coming up, and so there's a little bit of that feel. Obviously, major inspirations were the Velvet Underground, Iggy Pop. I mean, so Moon Age Daydream. So this song, from what I learned, that this song has actually been recorded by Bowie prior to Ziggy. with his former project, the Arnold Corns.
I did not know that.
Yeah, before Bowie met the guys that made up the Spiders from Mars, he was in this kind of short-lived, kind of glam project called the Arnold Corns, based on the name was based on Arnold Lane by Pink Floyd.
Okay. I did
So
not know this.
yeah. So he recorded this song and what are the songs? Hang On to Yourself, I believe, was the other song that he recorded, and this was like in '71. This record came out in '73, so he re-recorded these in '72 with the Spiders from Mars. So is there any song on your new record that has been repurposed?
No, because Pony and I just started writing together 4 years ago, and we decided to record. I guess in 2021, I decided that we should record. So, yeah, nothing has been repurposed.
Okay, because it's all brand new.
We're still like a baby band.
Yeah,
I mean, we literally. I feel like I'm, I have this, decades long career, like 4 decades of being in multiple bands, and I feel like I'm starting over again. But I like, I like it. I'm glad that I still get to do what I'm grateful that I'm still able to do this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and it's good too. It's good music. I mean,
Thank you.
decades of work. That's all stuff that's kind of led you up to this point. So even though Of Stars is a new band, new project, however you want to call it, you still have all of your experience behind it, and and it shows through in the music because it's good, like professional music. It's a great sound quality. I mean, there's definitely the hooks in there. There's like it's more of a pop music first and foremost. I mean, like I don't know how you feel about like your audience. I mean, do they kind of gravitate more towards the Psychic TV thing, which is obviously a very avant-garde kind of industrial type of band, whereas like this is very different than that?
I mean, Psychic TV at the end, Genesis actually wanted Psychic TV to go more in a psychedelic direction, and Psychic TV also was very pop. I don't think that we were very in the years that I was in the band, I don't feel like we were terribly industrial sounding. That was more of Throbbing Gristl's genre of music. And obviously I also wrote with Psychic TV. What's going on out there?
I have no idea. The world's ending.
I'm glad I have a glass of wine. I don't know what the audience is going to be. I just sort of jumped in like this. The music, when I write very honestly. I don't really think about it. I don't sit down and think I'm going to write a pop song, or I'm going to write this song. I just sort of, let it come out. It's this weird.
It's a visit from the muse.
Yeah, I mean, I just sort of feel like something comes in through my head and out my stomach, and then that's what happens. And the words come when the words come. And sometimes I write a song completely from start to finish in my head before I even sit down, and then there are moments where I realize that I don't know how to play some of the chords. And I have to change it so that I can actually play it, because I only know like first position chords. I'm not good at playing bar chords, and it's when you're a bass player for so many years of your life, like I haven't had to learn that stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's a little limiting, but whatever. You'll pick it up as you keep on working on it. So you write primarily on guitar.
We do, yeah. Tony and I both, and neither of us are guitar players. It's a real challenge.
Well, you're pulling it off. You're doing great work.
Well, I didn't play guitar at all on the recording. That's all Jeff Berner, who was the guitar player of Psychic TV, and actually I wrote the bass parts also. He played the bass parts as well. It was just easier for him to be able to do it as overdubs, because he has a studio at his house as well, and we were in the midst of a pandemic when we were recording, so we were just trying to get it done and do it within a budget. As the budget was my budget, which is not huge.
Right.
There's also that, right? Yeah, I'm gonna play bass.
Sure. Well, I mean, whatever your budget was, I mean, you made do with it. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I had amazing musicians and producers and engineers, and uh, that's honestly, it's like a lot of the Psychic TV team that
Right.
I've worked with for years. So it did feel very much like going home to me.
Right.
We recorded that. We recorded this EP in the same studio that we recorded the last two Psychic TV pieces of music. So it was, it was like going home.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next song, Starman.
I mean, what do you say about that? It's like a perfect song.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we already kind of got into it a little bit. This is so this was the with their performance of this song, their rising single on Top of the Pops, Bowie solidified his place in rock history. So drummer Mick Woodmansey is quoted as saying, "It's the concept of hope that the song communicates. That quote, we are not alone, and quote, they contact the kids, not the adults, and kind of say, get on with it, quote, let the children boogie."
Right.
So is that what this song brings to you still? Is that kind of like what you take away from it?
I mean, yeah, this song actually feels hopeful in a weird way. Like if we're talking about the end of the world, and then what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4 songs later or something, and then
Right.
there's hope because there's a starman waiting in the sky.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess I guess sticking with the theme, I mean that's correct that this is kind of like the moment where the coming of the Messiah is acknowledged. So it's
Right.
like I don't know who the speaker is. I don't know like what point of view that is, but they're essentially saying the Starman's gonna come, and he's actually this is the person that we're looking to save us from our demise. So it is kind of hopeful in a sense. So that about that show, that Top of the Pop show, because like I was asking you about how when do you like what was your experience with this record, like when did you first experience it, and you said maybe on TV, and I was thinking about this because this is actually historically that was the moment where like anyone that loves Bowie, that's when they saw him.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw that performance. I probably saw something on American Bandstand or something like,
Yeah.
US like programming.
Right. Do you think it may have been around this era? Because I mean, like the whole Ziggy thing was he only performed as Ziggy for a little less than 2 years.
It might have been a little bit later. And like I said, I did go back and play some catch up with Bowie because I think I was probably like 18 or 19 when it first kind of came across for me. Maybe a little younger. Maybe I was 17 or 18. I honestly, I just don't remember.
Sure,
I don't
sure.
know what it was. Like it was, obviously I was a fan. I just don't know how I got there.
Right, right. Well, let me ask you this then, because so when approached with the idea of like doing this show and talking about a record that's important to you, why did you choose this record?
I love that there's so many songs on this record that I can relate to, that I loved.
Yeah.
And that I go back to. I think that's why I chose this one. Like I
Right.
feel like it's that whole concept of going home again. Like I feel like I can put on these songs and they feel like they fit.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it's just a weird, like somehow they feel like they fit for me. Yeah.
Speaking of being able to keep doing it, the next song is "It Ain't Easy."
That one always throws me.
It doesn't belong on the record.
It doesn't feel like it belongs on the record.
Not really. I mean, it's arguably the most misplaced song on this record.
Yeah, I mean, I just like whenever it comes on, I'm like, wait, am I still listening to the same? Like
It's a cover.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But it's still like I've heard the Three Dog Night version of it, but like it just sort of is like I don't know. It kind of sort of throws me.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't like it. I do like it. It just doesn't. It doesn't speak to me in the way that the other songs do. And I don't want to just sound mean about it when I say like
I don't think that
this is-
sounds
I don't
mean.
like something.
It completely, what you're saying completely makes sense, because it
Yeah.
does not belong on this record. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't fit in with the theme. It has nothing to do with Ziggy. Um, I mean, it's arguably just like a decent rock song, and they just kind of threw it in. I mean, they had other options,
Yeah.
but I don't think there was any definitive reason why Bowie, like, he never made any kind of official statement like why they decided to choose this song, other, from the other ones that they could have possibly used. But I don't know. It is what it is at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have a lot to say about it because I never really connected to it. And
Right,
and
right.
again, like I didn't want to sound mean.
No, don't
I'm
worry
sure
about
it meant something at the time because they did it. They put it on this incredible recording, and somebody's probably going to come in and say that you don't know why they
Well,
did that. It was very important to that piece of, the whole
no,
piece of
I,
whatever. But
I don't think
yeah,
that that's true. I think if anyone wanted to make that argument, it's just because they want to argue.
yeah. Also, music is really personal, right?
Sure.
I don't expect people to like what I do. I would like for people to like what I do because
Of
it
course.
would help to, emotionally boost me to continue to do it.
Hmm.
But, yeah, I don't want to I don't want to play a show where everybody's booing,
Of course not.
walks
Yeah.
out. Obviously I'm doing it because I also would like to have a positive response.
Hmm.
So, I don't like to say anything negative, but I don't connect to that song.
That's quite all right. But, you can not connect with a song. That's totally fine. Um,
Thanks.
so it ain't easy. It ain't easy being in a rock and roll band. That's for sure. Um, can you tell me about some of your hardest moments?
Oh boy. I was on tour. Uh, oh wow. Yeah, this was a hard one. We were on a tour with Iggy Pop as the headliner. Actually, it was one of those big 900 bands on a tour kind of summer
Oh, okay.
tour thing.
Festival.
Yeah, festival tour. And I was in a band called Sexpod at that point, and 3 days into the tour, our drummer quits on stage at a sort of shoot off show in New York City, and then we get this other drummer, and we drive down to Virginia, and we play a show, or North Carolina, or I don't know, somewhere. It's like a long drive, and
Hmm.
got to get this guy on stage with us, and we're playing, and 2 weeks and we carry on we're troopers. We're gonna get this going, and we're doing what we have to do, and we're playing all these shows, and 2 weeks later our van breaks down. We had to we miss a show, I think in Oklahoma City or something. Our van completely dies, but while we were broken down under an overpass, we were getting attacked by ticks as we were sitting outside. Yeah, it was literally it was like a god event. I was like, we're the raining frogs. What is going to happen next? And if I didn't quit playing music then, I, like I'm obviously in it for the long haul at this point. But yeah, we lost our van. Then that got left in Oklahoma. We
Oh,
ended up in
man.
a rental car with our gear on the trucks, the
Yeah.
tour trucks. We finished the tour out. I kudos to the Reverend Horton Heat, who at one point got us on their bus to get us to Texas
Oh,
so that we
wow.
could get a rental car.
Yeah.
They took us from Oklahoma to Texas so we could get a rental car. And then luckily there were only 3 people in the band. So we had our guitars in the trunks, and all of our amps were on the trucks, and we finished that tour. I don't know how we did it, but we did it.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, that's a rock and roll story.
Sure is. Wow. You were resilient.
Yes, we were.
And that's just one. Wow. Okay. You've had
Oh yeah,
many
there's so
many years
many.
of
I don't
doing
want to
with
bore
it.
you. Literally, I could tell you 1,000 stories, but that's just
Okay.
one.
Yeah. That's a good one. A good choice. All right. So
Thanks.
so side two of the record. That's where we're at now. We start off with Lady Stardust. Um. So now, as far as this song is concerned, I mean, it's a beautiful song. It's a ballad-esque. It's like certainly one of my favorites on this song, on this record. I like the sad music for the most part.
I mean, well, I write a lot of sad music, so I clearly am very connected to sad music myself. I
Me
think
too.
it's beautiful, though. I think it's I'm going to use the word anthemic again because I feel like it's very like it's very big and it's very showy. And,
Right.
yeah.
Which seems to be from the standpoint of a close observer of this alluring alien, which is somewhat androgynous. Also, because it just this song, listening to this song specifically and listening to the lyrics in it, kind of like led me to think about your former bandmate Genesis,
Mm.
and I was wondering if like you felt like there was some kind of connection there. Like if you listen to this song, like can you see a connection between the way they describe Lady Stardust and Genesis?
I actually never made that connection, which is weird. And I feel like I really need to go back and listen to it again just
Oh, okay.
to like to get that. Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I could see that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I guess I could see that. That's funny. I don't know why that wasn't apparent to me before.
I
That's
don't know. I mean, it just kind of hit me. I mean, I don't know. Actually, I really don't know a lot about Genesis. Um, but just like the way the kind of lyrics describe like this animal grace on stage, you know.
that's interesting. Now I want to listen to that song again. I'll listen to it when we're done. Um,
Okay.
yeah, no, I mean, that wasn't where I went immediately with
Okay.
that song, but I can totally see it. I
Yeah.
guess I
Well,
was.
can you tell me about Genesis? I mean, like, what were some of your experiences sharing stages with her? Right? Is her his pronoun?
Yeah, yeah,
Her.
her. I
Okay.
mean, him by birth, but her.
Right. Her.
We
Okay.
we began calling Jen her in early 2000s. When after she got breast implants, and I can't remember the exact year that she did that, but she and Lady J, Jen's wife,
Hmm.
prior to her passing, to her dropping their body, were cutting up their bodies to resemble one another because they were moving toward that combined androgyne, which is
Oh.
the the third sex basically. Like it's a combined male and female.
Oh. Okay.
And it was really about breaking sex and breaking gender and what could be. And um, yeah, it was something that I obviously was completely open to, and I felt like really um, honored to be able to be a part of that journey with them and to be trusted as friends with in their community. And I got to watch like just how important Genesis as an artist and as a human being was to fans all over the world.
Hmm.
Um, because she did break, like with Robin Gristle, there was no real industrial music, right? They coined the term industrial music and then decided, no, I want to do this other thing. And, made this beautiful, almost poppy and psychedelic music at one point, and
Hmm.
early on in psychic TV, and then ended up having to leave um, England because Scotland Yard was raiding their home because of the Temple of Psychic Individual or Temple of Psychic Youth at that point. They thought Jen was a evil cult leader,
Yeah.
which I used to make fun of her all the time. I was like, "You're the most evil man in Great Britain," and we would both giggle, and it would be ridiculous because she was, yes, I've seen parts of her when she was angry, and sometimes like when people are angry, it's scary, right? Like I
Sure.
don't like being around people when they're angry, but mostly, Jen was really all about wanting to spread love and um, yeah, just very open and loving human being.
Yeah.
Being around her was pretty incredible. She's probably one of the most intelligent people I've ever known in my life. And it's a vast, vast wealth of knowledge. Like she would read a book a day. Like she just knew so much.
Hmm.
It's amazing to be able to spend time with her.
Yeah. Well, and so just in one more point, like, what about on stage? What about like that stage persona of theirs? Like,
That's I don't know because I was on stage with her. So,
okay.
I can't tell you, I can't answer that question honestly because I've never seen the stage persona because I've always been next to her
Hmm.
with
Okay.
that persona.
Yeah.
And you know, she lit up. It wasn't, but I with Genesis, and I think, you know, with a lot of musicians, who she was really the same off stage as she was on stage. Like she was just a, a human being who chose to look the way that she wanted to look. She would tell me that when after she got her breast implant, she finally felt like she was in her angelic body. I think it's really hard for people to not feel like they fit in their bodies. That I don't know what that would feel like, because I've always felt like I fit in my body.
Yeah.
Never felt like, I mean, obviously, you know, we're all like, oh, I want to lose weight, or I want to do this, or I wish I had this, or I wish my hair was straight, you know, like whatever. Like we all have that stupid little thing, but I never wished that, I never felt like I was misgendered. And I think that is I really applaud people who can figure out what it is that they want to be and can do it and be happy in their lives. And Genesis was one of those people. So I felt really proud of her a lot of the time too. It wasn't easy.
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't.
To be her, and you know, and then to lose the love of her life, to lose Lady J. 2009 was tragic. We had just been on tour, and she passed maybe 2 weeks after we got home. And you know, it was just, you were talking earlier like about mortality, like what if you lose your wife, or what if you know, she loses you. Like we lost her, and Jen had to grieve that loss, and it's not something you bounce back from easily.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine that you could.
Yeah, just you become somebody, you're the same, but then you're different, you know.
Right, you're missing something.
Yeah, that's the best way I could actually put it.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, you know, I definitely have to get into the catalog more. I've listened to some of the Psychic TV stuff, and I've listened to some of the Flowering Gristle stuff, but I find it very difficult for me. You know, some of it can be a little jarring.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but the stuff you're on, like, because I did listen to the later kind of catalog, and, you know, the stuff that you performed on. And you're right. I mean, it's not as industrial. There is kind of more of like a kind of a straightforward rock psychedelic thing happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just got to sit with it a little longer.
Or not. I mean,
no, I'm cool with it. I enjoy it. You know, I have a lot of friends that listen to a lot of different types of music. Like, we were up in the car the other day. I was going up to Boston with my friend, and, you know, chose a bunch of CDs from his CD collection and picked out Boredoms. I was just like, I've heard of this band. I need to kind of hear them. He's just like, okay, well, this one's not their weirdest, but this one's good. I was just like, okay, yeah, let's try it out.
I don't know if I know that, but I'll have to check that out too.
Yeah, weird, like, I guess you can kind of call it noise rock, avant-garde stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. I really don't know too much about them, but it's one of those things I gotta learn about.
Okay.
So, all right, let's move on. Let's move on to Star. So yeah, Star, I mean, okay, so first of all, the second side of this record is a banger. Like, basically, I mean, minus Lady Stardust being a little ballady, just banger after banger on this side, really.
Yeah, and it doesn't make me want to cry.
Yes, much less potential for crying on this side. Though there is some of it. It still gets there a little bit. It's heavy.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of seen this song as Ziggy praying in a way for rock star success. And based on what I've read about and what I've shared with you about Bowie's career leading up to this point and his multiple failures, I'd say this was an open declaration for stardom.
Or was it a letter to himself that he really wanted to be a star? Like that?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, because between...
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah. From what I've read about Bowie and his manager at the time, Tony DeFries, I believe his name was, this is what they were gunning for. They were like, success. We need to get you to become the next Elvis Presley. You know, and that's why they went to RCA Records. Tony DeFries was notorious for being like a just ruthless manager and just like, you know, insisted on getting his way. He actually at one point gave David Bowie like a some kind of like ledger just saying you have $1 million. Like, you have $1 million. You're now a millionaire. And this is before he was successful. And so it's kind of like that willing him success. Like, it's just like, you are a millionaire now, so act like a millionaire. And they hired him bodyguards, and he had all like the best things. Like, he would travel in a limo everywhere. He willed his success, you know?
I don't think I knew about that.
Yeah, yeah. It was just like,
Have I read that?
it's like that Jim Carrey writing himself $1 million check thing. It was just like,
I
yeah.
mean, I think that's pretty incredible. I believe in that power of positivity and like projecting like the positive truths for yourself.
Sure.
Doesn't always work for me, but but in a lot of ways it has too. So
Yeah, yeah. So thinking about before you started actively making music, what was your perception of rock stardom, and did you want it?
wow. No, I don't know that I did. I don't know that I thought that this was going to be what I was doing when I was that young. Like, I was always writing, even, I think even like as a 12 or 13-year-old, I was always writing something in my head, music, but I never really knew that it was something I could do. I mean, when you think of where I grew up, like, it was just, Hoboken at that time was really a blue collar town. We had a Maxwell House coffee factory. The whole city smelled like coffee. Like, everybody's, people were going to work. My dad was a school teacher. Like, it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't something that I really thought about. And also, I have to say, like, there weren't a lot of women to look up. Like, yes, amazing. There was Grace Slick and there was Hart back in those days, and one or two others that it's slipping my mind right now, but Janis Joplin, and but it didn't feel as accessible to me as it did to guys until I got to be like 19 or 20, and then I just sort of, maybe it was late for me to mature into, but once I realized that I wanted to really, maybe you don't choose to be a musician, maybe it chooses you. And so maybe I didn't really think about being famous. I just
You just had fun playing music.
I just am. It is what I am. Like, I am who I am.
Right.
Now, yeah. I mean, I don't imagine that I would become a rock and roll star now, but like we were saying earlier, I would love for somebody to put out the next record so that I don't have to dig so deep into pockets and work so, like, I take extra jobs so that I can make the kind of enough money to go into the studio, and then you have no money again, you have to start all over.
Right.
It'd be nicer if it didn't have to be that. Like, it's been years since I've had a record deal, right?
Right. Well, I mean, that's always a possibility,
Yeah,
Maybe,
I'm not writing it out. I mean, where's my $1 million check? I'm gonna.
You gotta write it yourself. Yeah.
Hiring my bodyguards tomorrow.
It's that perception. It's that, like, fake it till you make it. Really, I mean, it's very strange how that can be, because it's like it's like perception is everything, Like, you can be essentially like a nobody, right? But and let's just put this in today's context. Okay, so now we have computers, we have the internet, we have social medias. People have the ability to make their lives seem bigger than they are. And if you can make your life bigger than it is, than what it really is to the perception of an audience, then you potentially have the ability to be that person.
Right.
You fool everybody into thinking, like, I am this big deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, that social media makes it easier for people to, you don't have to show your real life, right? You just show the best parts.
Yeah.
If I showed the best parts of my life, like, wow, blow everybody away,
Right. You just share all the stories about being on tour with Iggy Pop and riding around with Red Horn Heat. You're awesome. You're a rock star. You are already a rock star.
Exactly. Exactly. I was on tour with Pink once too, so I mean, I've definitely done my share of being on the road and doing amazing things. And, it's been not such a bad life, really. I mean, and then there's been tragedy.
Of
But
course.
I think that's the kind of thing that really, I wouldn't write the songs that I write right now if I hadn't lived the life that I've lived, right? So,
Hmm. Right. Yeah, it's all leading up to a point. It's all everything has kind of happens for a reason.
for sure.
All right. Well, the next song is "Hang On to Yourself."
Yeah, that one just kicks right in.
Oh yeah.
And then, like, I know there's that, isn't that the one where there's like a weird, like, between the verses, there's like he takes this like weird breath where there's like air and silence, and then it just jumps into the next lyric. I think that's the one.
Maybe. Yeah. I can't remember too well, but it's definitely one of the most exciting songs. I mean, actually don't really even have anything about this song, except that this is the epitome of rock and roll excess, right?
I mean, I love the bass. I love the bass on this song. Like, it's
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. It's fun.
like, it's so much fun, right? Like, it's bluesy and poppy and rock and jumpy, and it makes you want to dance, and
Right. Super exciting.
yeah, super super
and
exciting.
and like the content of the lyrics of this, I mean, like, if we're thinking about this like as the theme of, like, the rise and the fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, this is the peak Ziggy, where they're like debaucherous rock and roll excess. Like, I mean, they are. This is full tilt at this point.
Yeah, and it only gets, from here on out, it's just like mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Well. So then there's the next song, Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah.
Now, so kind of what we were just talking about with "Hang On to Yourself" kind of being the peak of excess. Um, Oddly enough, like, this is the title track of the record, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, it's essentially about the character of Ziggy. Um, but essentially, the song is documenting the fall of Ziggy and the Spiders of Mars at this point. Like, this
Yeah,
song is the decline.
right. But
Hmm.
but is it, because of his ego, right? Like, he's making love with his ego, so he sucked up into his mind. Like, is that, like, was it just like a self destructive
Actually,
moment,
I
right?
think it's exactly that, because with some of the research that I did, I mean, some of the influences for the character of Ziggy came from Iggy Pop, Lou Reed, Vince Taylor, just to name a few. And I think the Vince Taylor one was the most specific one. Lou Reed and Iggy Pop both at that time, like in 71, 72, were very deep into drug use and, like,
Yeah,
just falling apart. Like,
yeah.
they just their careers were literally slipping away from them. Um, and Vince Taylor, I don't know if you're familiar with Vince Taylor.
I'm not very familiar with Vince
Yeah, I
Taylor.
wasn't either. He had a actually really successful career in Europe. Um,
Okay,
and he had like
that makes sense.
one major hit song, which I can't remember for the life of me right now. But essentially, Bowie met this guy at a point where he was just literally like schizophrenic almost. Like,
Oh,
he was
okay,
really hard up, just kind of not making any sense. He really seemed far gone, and he died shortly after. So,
okay.
so some of the influence of these guys on Bowie to create this character of Ziggy, I mean, that's essentially what he wanted to encapsulate, was that, it is possible that even if you are a rock superstar, that you can fall from grace and fall uh, very hard,
Right.
potentially lose everything that you've worked for. One thing, because considering we were talking about the influences on Bowie to create Ziggy, uh, if there's one thing you could say you took from an influence, like from an artist as an influence, what would you say it would be?
Oof. That I don't know. I
Hmm.
mean, I actually feel like I've been influenced by so many
Sure.
artists, right? So I don't know what I would have taken. Like, I definitely think that, like, maybe I've learned some bass, like a Bootsy Collins kind of bass playing style at some points in my life. So
Hmm.
maybe I've taken from from that James Brown era. I know that like I've been very influenced by some of the 80s music like Gang of Four and bands like the Bush Tetras I've mentioned earlier. They're a New York band that I used to love. They're still playing actually. That as a bass player, I definitely feel like I've been influenced by other bass players. I don't know that I've really taken directly anything that I don't know if that's the word. I definitely have been influenced.
Sure. I mean, everyone has. Everyone is to a degree. Well, I didn't know if there's anything specific. I mean, like, because Bowie was, like, being very specific about these things. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that influence you to create what you create, but I didn't know if there was, like, something that sticks out in your mind.
Not really for me. I mean, I think, at this point in my life, I don't really write toward anything. I just write what's sort of coming out. And maybe that would change. Maybe there is something that'll inspire me to write, like, that I will directly write because I saw something that made me feel like I needed to do that.
Sure.
I think for me, I took all of the music that surrounded me in my whole life and just sort of worked with it. When I started out, I played with a pick, and then I taught myself how to sort of slap, and then I decided that I would play with fingers, and now I can pretty much play whatever way I want to, and it really just depends on what song I'm playing, right?
Right. What feel do you try to go for?
Yeah, like, is it, if it's going to be like a loud hard rock song and like Ramones, like, I'm going to play with a pick,
Right.
But if it's something a little bit softer, I'm going to play with my fingers because I have more, and I can just sort of
it's a different
fly around
feel.
And you can fly around the
you can be more
softer,
muted. Right.
Yeah, you have a
It's
little
not
more
so much of
control
an attack.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, with that being said, we should move on to the next song, which is Suffragette City.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't... What do you say about that song? Like, that's a masterpiece.
It is. I mean, and it's just such a banger, like, rock song. This song oozes sex. It really does.
Well, I mean, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, it absolutely oozes sex. It always makes me smile, though. Like, it just does. There's something about this song that no matter how many times have I heard this song in my lifetime, and I still don't hate hearing it. Like, you'll hear songs over and over in your life, and you're like,
sure.
Oh, I'm so sick of this song. I have never gotten sick of hearing this song, ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's
so weird.
It just like invokes so much good stuff. I mean, like, debaucherous to a degree, sure, but that's also fun too to kind of think about or look back on. I mean, okay. So wait. So I want to analyze this song a little bit, and I want you to. I need you to help me out here. Okay, don't. All
right, I'm in. Let's go. I'm jumping in.
So, so though the definition of suffragette is a woman seeking the right to vote through organized protest.
Yes.
I never knew that. I never knew why this song was called Suffragette City.
Oh, okay.
But, okay, so that's the definition of the word suffragette. In the early 20th century, this was used as an insult and implied a nasty woman.
Yes, because women weren't supposed to have rights
right.
in those days. It's supposed to be in the kitchen, making babies.
In the kitchen? Well, that takes a little bit of talent. Yeah, but I mean, I get it, and that's, and obviously we've moved on from there, but, so based on the context of the lyrics...
We're halfway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
A little bit. Not too much, unfortunately. Not enough. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just inching with all these things that we need to change in our world. But, so based on the context of the lyrics, I think this is where Ziggy is at his most debauched and knee-deep in groupies and the overindulgent sex life of rock superstardom. Now, okay, so, like, this is your choice to be as revealing or not as you care, but this brings up something that's very kind of like something that's I've always thought about as far as, like, the rock world is concerned, and, like, playing in bands and so forth. Because I've done some small independent touring in my very limited time and you know, I've had very limited experience with like road flings, but I would like to know what the female perspective of that situation is like as a performer.
It's there.
Yeah, well, because I mean, I've kind of heard from other women where it's just like it's difficult because if you're in a position as a single person on the road, obviously there's that potential for opportunity, but like how like what like where's the difference? Like where is the like how different and or how hard is it for a woman compared to a man?
You know, I think it's I think that's everybody's personal experience.
Mm,
A lot of, I definitely have been in relationships, a lot of tours, and then I had a lot of tours where I wasn't. Um, it exists, and it
mm-hmm.
existed for me. Like I could totally have had a fling here and there. I'm not saying I did. Saying could have, maybe did. Who knows? Yeah, no. I mean, like it. I think that I'm not going to say it's the same for women and men, but I don't really know because I'm not a guy. Like I'm not. For me, I need, even if it's like it's not as, it's sexual, but I guess it's not the same kind of, we're very different as a species, right? So what I find sexy in a man, maybe is a little bit more intimate and not just like, I need a girl to screw tonight with, I'm trying to be somewhat G-rated here, but but yeah, like, I definitely have been around guys who, will hook up with 2 or 3 women in the night, but like, was not for me personally.
Right. But so with that being said, I mean, like, what is that experience like as a witness to these things? I mean, like, because like you're a witness as a woman, a performer, to these other guys that are gonna go ahead and hook up with these random women, which well, let's just call them groupies.
Yes. Okay. Band-aids.
Band-aids. Yeah. I mean, like, was that a difficult position for you to be in, being in the band and then having to deal with these guys going off and hooking up randomly?
No, I don't really care what anybody does in that, like, as long as everybody's consenting, it doesn't bother me in any way. Like I'm all for people being sexual, and I can be very sexual as well. Like I love sex. Sex is amazing. Especially when it's good.
Right.
No, really.
No,
I mean,
I
sorry,
I understand.
Like, yeah, like I don't think it ever bothered me, and I think that even like if like for groupies, if that is where you're being fulfilled and that makes you feel like your best self, then like go for it. I really don't. I don't really care. Like with Genesis, that it was never a thing for her. Like it was never a big, she never really wanted that. Like she wanted an intimate relationship with somebody. She didn't want to have like a one night stand, whereas some of the guys were totally cool with that. I could be totally cool with that from time to time.
Sure. Because it's like fulfilling a need, I mean, like sometimes you just let's say you're on the road for a few weeks at a time, right? And you're like kind of feeling a little lonely, kind of feeling a little, little horny.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
If someone's gonna come and approach me, sure, why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard on a tour, but like for us, it was hard on a tour bus when we were touring on buses. But when we started doing like, after Lady J died and Jen was a little bit older, also we were flying and then being picked up, and we would usually have a hotel. So then obviously it's easier if you have a hotel to, hang out with people.
Right.
Sort of makes it nicer. Yeah.
Okay.
The old wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. It's tale as old as time.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Sorry.
I love it too. I really, really do. I mean, it's such a great song. And then, unfortunately, leading into the last song, Rock and Roll
Oof.
Suicide. That's all you really need there, and I'm already crying. I'm already gonna
Yeah. No, and then at the end, like the whole "you're wonderful,
right.
you're not alone, let's turn on and be, you're not alone, give me your hands, like you're wonderful."
Hmm.
Just yeah.
It's a
It's just
lot.
that one is, yeah, it's pretty intense.
It's a lot to take
Um,
in.
and I think that's why it's I also love this song.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, this song has kind of like grown on me as far as like it's always been like kind of this emotional connection that I've had with it, just because it's just so you know overwhelmingly powerful. But then growing up, like I grew up in the '90s, so like I saw Kurt Cobain kill himself,
Yeah.
and then there's all these other rock and roll suicides that have happened. I mean, Chris Cornell, what's his name?
The 20, yeah.
Yeah, there's all these people that have gone.
It's Lane Staley and Chris Cornell and
Yeah, I mean that wasn't so much a suicide, Lane Staley. I guess it was overdose, right? Which
yeah, well,
kind of the same, I
it's the
guess.
same. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, and so it's sad and it's tragic in that regard when we think about those things. I mean the feel of the song itself, regardless of that connotation, is just so moving anyway.
Yeah. No, it's the chord progressions I think are beautiful on this song as well. Like it's just it's not overly flowery, but yeah, there's like it blooms in a beautiful way I think as well. And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean I'm just looking at some of the lyrics right now. It's like don't let the milk floats ride your mind, so natural, religiously unkind. It's like wow,
I
yeah.
know.
I mean it's pretty intense. I mean, and then it goes back to like what I was saying earlier on. I think is like where was David Bowie in his psyche when he was writing all of this? Like he has to have lived
Hmm.
these emotions to be able to write these emotions. Like can you just turn that on? I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't really speak for him, but based on the research that I did, I think that much like an actor, he really put himself into the mindset of the character, and that's why he created these characters that he sang through.
Right.
Like I know that I saw him in an interview say that he found it easier to be able to write for a character than for himself. So that might
I mean
have
that in
something to do
itself
with it.
I was gonna say that in itself is pretty telling though, I think.
Well, he was very shy,
Yeah.
and so like he didn't want to expose himself, but to expose the kind of secrets and the
The
traumas
character.
of others. Yeah,
Right.
was a lot easier. It was a good way to hide, really. All right, so Bowie retired Ziggy Stardust during a live concert on the 3rd of July 1973 at London's Hammersmith Odeon in front of 3,500 fans. 3,500 fans. Can you imagine that? It's like, really? That was the peak?
It's amazing, right?
I would have
Yeah.
assumed that there was going to be so many. I thought it was assumed at least 10,000.
I mean, I think I've actually played there, so that makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Wow.
Or like
Okay.
Hammersmith, like that makes no sense to me.
I
Yeah.
mean, that capacity doesn't sound right, but I guess hey, that's what I found. So just before the final song of the concert, which was "Rock and Roll Suicide," Bowie announced, of all the shows on this tour, this particular show will remain with us the longest because not only is it the last show of our tour, but it's the last show we'll ever do. So with this as an example, if we want to avoid the depressing route and take more of a lighthearted approach, this could be this could be seen as a career suicide with the retiring of the Ziggy character. Now you've already kind of touched on this, but I was going to ask you if you could ever see yourself retiring from music.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought I was at one point, when I was like 40, I was like, that's it, I'm done. And then I wasn't done. And that was around the time that I started playing with Psychic TV.
Oh,
And it was the
yeah.
best not retiring gift ever. At this point, no, because I don't, I might not play out, I might not tour in 10 years, but I don't think that I'll stop writing music because I don't know that my brain will allow that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an art. I mean, if you're an artist, which you obviously are, it's hard to kind of walk away from that and just kind of
Yeah, I don't know how
stop
to shut.
doing it.
Yeah, I don't know how to shut it off. But, you know, what does it mean to not be a musician? Like, I, you know, I'm always going to have a guitar around. I'm always going to pick it up and start playing stuff. Like, you know, I'm going to be that annoying person, right? Like, I mean, I don't usually do it in front of people, but you know, I'll get home from a night out with friends and I'll grab my guitar and I'll start to play stuff. And
Sure.
you know, it makes me happy. It's sort of, it's in some ways I feel like it's my therapy, right?
Mm.
You know, I don't have to let everybody else hear it, but I still need to do it for myself.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, okay, so if you were or had to, how would you go out?
Like die?
No, retire.
Like die.
Oh, that's what would have to happen. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what is retiring? You know, I've told people in the past, like, how do everything that I do in my life, except for, you know, I have a part-time job from, you know, a couple of days a week, but other than that, everything I do in my life is who I am. Like I'm an artist. I make jewelry. Also, I have a small jewelry web shop, you know, where I make everything with my hands, and it's all sterling silver or gold, and you know, so that's my creative artistic side. And then I play and I write music, and so what am I gonna like? That is who I am. So how do you retire from that? You can't retire from who you are.
Right. Yeah.
Everything I do is a part of who I am. So yeah, I'm not retiring. I mean, unless I break my hands, God, please don't ever.
Well,
I'm never gonna break my hands.
Those will heal anyway. I mean, that's not a retirement.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, I don't plan on retiring. I mean, I've being on the road with Genesis for, you know, I don't know, 17 years. You know, I've seen other older musicians, people in their 70s and even in their 80s, just still at it, still on, you know, shorter tours, but still out there playing. And, you know, and look at Willie Nelson, like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what do you do? Like, yeah, well, he could retire, but it's, again, it's like, this is what we do, right? This, as musicians, this is what we do. I'm not saying I'm going to be on a giant tour or anything, but I'm certainly still going to pick up and play stuff in my house.
Right. Well, so if a tour were proposed to you, would you do it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, especially with a new record coming out and all.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on, you know, routing and if it makes sense financially. Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah, I would love it. I actually like being on the road. I'm one of those people who I really enjoy playing, and I love that, like, you know, when you're in a band with people and you get into the like first week and that second week, you just get so good.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Everybody gets so good.
Right.
And, you know, by that third week, you guys are a machine and you're unstoppable, right? Like, and, you know, by the fourth week or the fifth week, then you have to come home. Like, it was so good. But I love that. And yeah, it can be tiring and exhausting, and, you know, you get cranky and whatever. Like you know, there's all the stuff that, you know, people always feel like, oh, it's so glamorous and you've been this place and that place. I'm like, yeah. And I saw the inside of a dressing room, and I sat and waited for a sound check for 3 hours today, and the guys were late and the equipment didn't show up, and I was hungry because I hadn't eaten since, you know, the night before. Like, you know, there's that side of it too. But yeah,
anyone who says it's glamorous has never gone on tour.
Well, yeah, but how many people have gone on tour? I mean,
right.
Yeah, exactly. There are a lot of musicians, but how many people get to do that? Like, you know.
Yeah, realistically, yeah, not many. I don't think. Even me, I mean, just limited, very, very limited. I mean, you know, nothing. Certainly nothing ever supported. It was all DIY and stuff like that, and that's kind of the worst. You know,
yeah.
I mean, that's just like, we're looking for a floor to sleep on. Hey, anyone got a floor?
Done all that too. I mean, you know, we would go out like with one of my first bands, and we were 3 women in our, you know, 20s, like
Mm-hmm.
strangers, like, hey, you have a floor we can crash on? Like, I
Right.
think about that now and I'm like, we were nuts.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know why I'm not dead. I really
Well,
don't.
luckily you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That just whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Mm. So, again, about Of Stars. So you have a new record coming out on the 23rd.
Yes.
Um, so
Of
that
April.
that'll be the digital release because the vinyl we don't know when it's going to show up, but there will be pre-orders. I assume, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do pre-order. I'm actually gonna get that's on my list for this week is to get in touch with the printing press to see when that when I can actually have like an image of the packaging so I can get pre-sales going. I mean,
Right.
the goal would have been to have had it, you know, to be able to do pre-sales like on the 23rd as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah,
Right.
hopefully we'll have more. I'll have more news soon.
Okay.
I don't have it today.
That's fine. Fine. So as of right now, there are two singles that are available pretty much everywhere on all digital formats.
Yeah.
So everyone can kind of listen to those and favorite them and kind of like put them into their library so that when it releases, they'll get to hear everything. So I mean, so
Yeah.
what is the plan? I mean, I know you have a show on the 24th, which is essentially like
Yeah.
a listening release, right?
Yeah. Well, it's we're gonna play. Pony's gonna play solo, and I'm gonna do some solo stuff with a couple of guys that I was playing with. I had a solo release in 2014
Yeah,
called Sticks and Bones.
I heard it.
So I'm gonna do a few songs from that, and then Pony and I are just gonna do acoustic. We'll probably play all 5 songs
Yeah.
from the recording. That's what we were rehearsing today. It was so weird because we haven't been playing and we've heard them non-acoustically now a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So to go back and sort of strip it down again, it was fun. Yeah.
That's always the greatest form, really. I mean, that's a testament to a good song too, right? Is it that if you can strip it down to its bare essential and have it still
Yeah.
resonate, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, so I'm very excited about that. And then we do have another show booked in Brooklyn at Pioneer Works, Red Hook's in Red Hook. And that is during there's a Genesis P-Orridge and Lady J. Breyer P-Orridge art show called We Are But One. So there's a performance space within the gallery, and we're going to perform there as well, along with some other members of Psychic TV are going to join us, and we'll do a little bit of a tribute to Genesis, which makes sense because of the situation we're going to be in. So,
Right.
and there we'll be performing more as a full band,
Okay.
which we haven't really nailed down with the full band. I mean, for that, yes, but like if we were to tour, I'm not sure exactly what our full band would be yet.
Right.
Still working on it.
Speaking of which, so Of Stars, spelled O-V, Stars,
Yeah.
is what is the connection of Stars to like or from Psychic TV? Because I feel
Well,
like
Genesis used to use of OV instead of OF. So I just thought it was a nod to Jen, just a
Oh,
little,
okay.
yeah, like my little tribute.
Yeah.
We were very, very, very close friends, so it's the tribute, my little private tribute, which is now very public.
Well, I mean that's beautiful. I mean, being in a band with anybody is typically, well, as long as it was a good relationship in the band, it's always like a very intimate relationship to have with somebody.
Yeah.
It's the next thing to marriage or something like that. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's very touching. It's very nice to know that you're doing that.
Thanks. My light is in my eye. I had to move it.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna get going anyway. I wanted to let you go. I didn't want to hold you up too long, but I just wanted you to know that it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I thank you for choosing this record and letting me get into it.
Yeah, thanks. You too. I actually haven't listened to it fully in a really long time, and it's been really fun for me to do that.
Good, great. I'm glad that you had some joy out of this.
Yeah, it's really great.
It's a pretty great listen. I mean, you kind of can't go wrong.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting us do this.
Absolutely, and so best of luck with the new record. It sounds great from what I've been able to hear so far, and I'm looking forward
Thank
to it
you.
coming out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hope to